Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. We're back after a break while I was on vacation, but we're here to bring you the
Mhm.
latest and greatest geeky news of the week. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and with me is my wonderful co-host, as always, Courtney Bolin.
Hey, everybody.
So we've got some news. There was some news while I was away.
Mhm.
Uh, Technically, it was like right after our last podcast episode. That we've got coming up, and some interesting news that came up. I was either yesterday or today. Um, but first, I don't know if this really qualifies as gaming or pop culture news. Courtney, have you heard of this whole cinnamon toast shrimp fiasco that's been so apparently it's been blowing up on the internet? It's somebody
I have
whose
n I
whose
have
last name
not.
is
I
Carp with a K. Uh, is he's like a comedy writer or whatever, but was like pouring himself a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch and found like a bunch of shrimp tails like that were coated in the coating, like popped out. Yeah,
Oh!
really gross or whatever. Um, uh, but and that turned into it. Like wrote to General Mills was like, hey, I'm just checking it. Are you guys okay over there? And they basically said like, there are no problems here. Please, like,
There is
please
no
be
war
advised that
embossing say.
it was they sometimes the cinnamon and sugar can clump together. And he was like, you did not just try and gaslight me, on
No.
that. And so then proceeded to um basically, then, like, kept showing photos of, like, the actual cinnamon and sugar coated shrimp tails. It's become
Mhm.
a big thing, the saga of the cinnamon toast, shrimp tails. Um, it's wild
That is just
and bizarre.
that is very, very bizarre. That is
Um, Also did
concerning.
find out, so it was in, like, a two-pack, and the bottom of the bag had been sliced open and retaped, so it was like it's possible that it has nothing to do with General Mills, but, like, the fact that somebody went in and, like, sliced the bag open, possibly tampered with like, there was also, like, a piece of string, there's a whole
Oh,
bunch of stuff that should not have been in there.
and he's sure that nobody tried to prank him,
Um, Unclear, because, like,
Like, that's something that I think about because 'cause
it
I'm
was like
like,
this when he bought it from the supermarket, apparently. Um,
hmm.
but, like, don't know, somebody on the supply chain was just, like, slashing boxes open, shoving stuff in random who knows? But,
Are we gonna have to like? Is this gonna be another aspirin issue? And are we gonna now have to have child proof or tamper evident cereal boxes?
I'm surprised that we don't have that already.
Okay, no. You know what? I really am surprised we don't have zip lock like baggies of the bags that are your cereal. Because no amount of rolling or anything else like that is going to keep your cereal fresh. Give us Ziploc fresh
Yeah, I
of
mean,
some
that
sort.
that would actually be great. Yeah.
That just that. That's all I'm
I
asking. I don't care if
Now
it's,
this
tamper evident.
story was of particular interest to me as I just finished up a box of cinnamon toast crunch today. And I went, I mean, nothing smelled shrimpy.
You would
I
feel
would
the
have
texture
noticed.
difference.
I would have noticed. Well, it also there was like found like rat feces, like again, like garbage in there and everything. So yeah, it was gross. It's like it went from
Yeah,
absurd to
that's
gross, but it's like again, uh how did this happen?
yeah.
Like because
That's
this is
a
either a problem at the source at General Mills of either people packing the plastic bags, um or it's an issue with distribution and whoever's distributing that, and if it's like a disgruntled employee there who's like basically taking contaminated stuff, ripping open bags and shoving them in there and then retaping them up. Um,
I
my
really,
guess would
really,
be it might
really
be an
hope.
issue because it wasn't evident that the outside box had been tampered with. Uh, like that it may have been something happening at the General Mills plant.
I really hope it was a prank. I
Um,
really do.
here's the thing. Like that's like causing actual food poisoning and possibly pretty deadly food poisoning.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm hoping that it was a
so yeah.
bad prank gone bad. Um,
Uh,
and not that anybody was. Yeah, because
yeah, I don't
that on a mass scale is really scary to think about.
yeah. Yeah, I think
But
that goes well past prank territory and it's like some sort of malicious intent. That like,
I mean, let's just
here's the thing.
like
If it
throw that
happened
out there.
if it
Hmm.
happened at the source, there's no way of knowing who it's going to go to.
Yeah,
And it's just somebody that's angry. Um,
and if that's happening at the source, that's an easy lawsuit because seafood allergies like are it is the entire thing. Like that doesn't just the
I feel
shells
like we're
doesn't
glossing
mean
over
that it's
there.
anything different.
Cordy, they placed rat turds in there.
Yeah, that's
So like we're not even talking about food allergies. We're talking about
yeah.
just
That's
public
just
health.
that's
So yeah. So
no.
listen folks, maybe not
Check your
buy any
cereal
General Mills cereals for a while.
or
Uh
check your cereal. Like
yeah. Yeah,
like
definitely
check your
check your
cereal.
cereal for tampering before you try and do stuff. I didn't notice anything like that in the bag. To to be fair for my
Yeah.
own stuff. Um but yeah. So yeah. Uh be careful out there with your
Hmm.
cereal. Um and on that note, why don't we get into the quickfire news and move away from this horrifying culinary topic?
That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right. So first up, Friday of this week, Monster Hunter Rise finally comes out. Um, if you
Yay.
haven't pre-ordered, you can already pre-download it. Um, so excited for that. I will be playing that on stream as one of the stream options this week.
Sweet.
And probably be playing that and Bravely Default 2 for a while. And just doing dual streams of those. So
Fun fun. Well, Animal Crossing New Horizons has been out for 1 year already. Like, man,
the
they
longest
still
year.
hit they hit at the perfect time
They
of
did.
release
They really
last
did.
year. Because I've been seeing a lot of posts about like this was our last like normal week before everything shut down. And
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, yeah, we're never having normal weeks again.
Yeah.
Not for many more years.
Um, Next up, Niantic is working with Nintendo to develop the next AR mobile game based on Pikmin.
Hmm,
So develop an AR mobile app similar to Pokemon Go in some vein, but it's going to feature Pikmin. This is slated to release late 2021
oh, this year, nice.
this year.
Uh, so, Ouroboros, I hope I'm saying that right,
I think so.
is a new 5e campaign setting for D&D from Chris Metzen, and the Kickstarter for it launches on April 20th.
Yes. So as a reminder, Chris Metzen used to be head of, I think it was like creative development at Blizzard. He was like one of the like early people at Blizzard and one of like the founders of Warcraft. Um,
Nice.
One of the things that came out, it was that I referred to. the day after our last podcast episode. New Unearthed Arcana for D&D, speaking of which.
Yeah.
Folk of the Feywild. So it introduces a bunch of new player options for playing having a character who is one of the various species, we'll say, from the Feywild. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in our deep dive.
Yes. And last, Black Widow has been pushed back again in release from May. It is now going to be releasing in July. And Disney is going to be doing the release in theaters and premium access on Disney Plus again.
Yeah, so and we can talk a little bit more about this in our deep dive as well. Of I have some theories on things. Um, and actually, that wraps up our quickfire news. So unless you have anything last minute, Courtney.
No, no,
Okay,
I
I
don't,
know sometimes you
unfortunately.
like
Not
to
this week.
sneak in a news tidbit that I didn't hear about.
Dude, I can barely keep my days straight right now.
I keep getting phone calls. Like I've been getting phone calls all day today of just like, and when I pick up the phone, like I just don't answer it to see if it's a real person,
hmm
and nobody says anything, and then it just hangs up, and it's like, and they're coming from
Yeah, I
like
keep.
all over Western Mass.
Oh, fun thing, I get random when I get robocalls and spam calls, they all come from main numbers. So
Yeah,
it's very easy for me to block them.
yeah. So, let's get into our deep dive.
Yes.
All right, why don't we start with Black Widow getting pushed again? To the point
Yes.
now that it's almost like which has been in development longer before its release date, Cyberpunk 2077 or Black Widow. Um,
Oh.
right? So I have a theory
mhm.
that although theaters are starting to reopen, is that they're
Mhm.
not reopening aggressively enough for like Disney's liking,
Yeah.
or for Disney
They
to be
want them to.
comfortable with doing an aggressive release schedule like they've done in the past, where there's been like three, like of Disney properties. Like there were some months where it was like three in the same month, and it was like this is too much. Um,
Yeah, I remember for a little bit we hit that, like it was almost every week you'd have to go out and see the new
yeah.
um Disney
So
property film.
Cruella is also launching in May, and it's also coming to Disney Plus. It's coming to theaters.
I
And
have
I
heard
think
so little about that.
right, all I've heard was that it's a prequel,
Yes. Yes,
and that's all that I've
it
heard.
is a origin story of her, and I'm like, she's a fashion icon. That's basically what she does. Is this like going to be the Devil Wears Prada but Disney version?
Apparently, it might
Like,
also like lean into like that she used to love dogs and then something happened and then she hates dogs or something. I don't know. Like I feel
I,
like they're gonna
I,
try and give her the Maleficent treatment, and it's like I
but
don't know. I feel
Maleficent
like if you're
could
gonna
be
do that, do it to
redeemed
an
a little bit
interesting
more.
villain. Like you could do that with Captain Hook because Hook has interesting quirks.
Yes.
Um, or like if you want to make it like kind of a darker one, like Frollo might be an interesting take. Although Frollo might be a little too historically accurate if you're gonna do it right. Uh, maybe
I
not.
don't that would I
Like a movie
ooh,
about Scar,
that would
you
be a good
know,
one.
like that could be interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It-
I'm
but anyway, so
not.
Cruella is also coming out in May. So my thinking is, uh, that Disney doesn't want to put out multiple movies that are going to have this $30 price tag on Disney Plus all at the same time,
Yeah, because we
because
just got Raya.
shifting Black Widow is also shifting Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings.
Yeah.
which is going to
Yeah,
be the
because
next
like,
Marvel
because we
movie.
just my thought in it is we just got Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking they only wanna have 1 title being premiere access at a
They
time on Disney Plus.
yeah, they want to it seems like they want to space it out every couple of months.
Mhm,
Um because Shang-Chi was supposed to come out in July. Now that Black Widow's coming out in July, it's being pushed back to September,
mhm.
right? So they're not just like kicking it back like a month. They're kicking it back 2 months at a time. Um oh, lost Courtney. Uh so that's my thought, is that somehow they slipped Cruella into the lineup and are like, we're gonna promote this, um, and Black Widow's already been pushed back this much. We're just gonna push it back again, um,
Yeah, because I
and
haven't
that
seen anything really about Cruella.
that it might also be that they think people are being sated, like Marvel fans are being sated with WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, uh, which I forgot to put in the notes this Quickfire news that the first episode's out, second episode comes out this week. They are doing weekly episode releases, so if you're like Courtney and you want to binge the whole thing, you're gonna have to wait until the very end. Um,
Yeah.
I will say, Courtney, this one seems much less traumatizing than
I was gonna
WandaVision.
say, this
So,
one, I have a feeling like I'm really excited for it. I just haven't I barely get enough time to sleep, um, let
so I
alone
will say the
binging
first
stuff.
episode, there's a little bit of it's a little bittersweet, but just because, and this isn't spoilers because widely theorized, it does deal with kind of a post Captain America world.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's gonna
And
it
like
I
that's
would
not really a
that's to me,
spoiler.
that's an obvious thing, that it's going to have to address
And so that's a lot
because
of there's a lot of subtext and themes
yeah,
happening with with that and struggling
yeah. But
to
see, the thing
accept
is,
that kind of.
I'm okay with that because I know that, yes, they're sad that Cap is gone, but Cap got a good life. We're good. I can handle that.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I know it's going forward
yeah.
from that,
But
but
it's
it's
it's more of just, and that's why I say it's a little bittersweet. Um
yeah.
so
I can handle
but some
bittersweet.
some
I can't handle
unexpected
traumatic.
some unexpected uh twists happening there. Um
Yeah.
so, and much more straightforward than WandaVision was too. So you're not
Okay.
wondering halfway through the season like what is even going on.
Yeah,
uh
you're not thinking, "Oh, this is something just cute and funny and quirky." And, "Oh, no, it's not.
yeah.
Oh, 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 no, it's not. Oh, I've bitten off
And
far
I
more than I
think
can chew. Oh, this is"
so. Again, I don't
yeah.
want to give away any spoilers on anything, but I think we're going to be seeing um a complicated sort of villain, quote unquote, situation. Um More like like Killmonger in Black Panther,
Yeah.
than say uh more on that end of the spectrum of
Yeah,
villainous
it's
type
more of
stuff
a
than
well, you can
say
kind
like
of
Ronan
understand.
the Accuser, uh,
Yeah.
who is about kind of as cartoonish as you can get when it comes to the MCU.
Yeah,
Um, or I guess
but
Grandmaster. Grandmaster's pretty cartoonish, like to the and to the point that
but
he's not even
any
like
either
he's
way though, it's
not
gonna
very.
be yeah. I actually like villains that you can, like, empathize with because 'cause I'm like, "Well, they make a good point. They're just going about it all wrong."
I just Thor Ragnarok is just is still such a great. I mean, it's by far my favorite Marvel movie.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Like, and I'm finding like my wife watches a lot of Marvel movies. Like there's some of them like I don't really have any interest. Like they're good. Like Civil War, like was
I
really
still have
good.
honestly never seen that.
Um, and I just like it's tough to watch. Just because like it's intended to kind of be tough to watch because it's like, oh no, mom and dad are fighting, and so like like I don't want to watch it. Um,
Yeah.
Infinity War beat this the same thing. Like I'll watch Endgame. I've watched Endgame, several times. Infinity War, like we tried watching it the other day when I was like, I have to leave. I can't. Like I can't do this again. Like I saw it once in the theater and then I was like, I'd never have to watch this again and go through this. Um, like even
Yeah.
knowing how it all turns out, like it is still very difficult to watch. But anyway, so
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier is out. Um, but
And
uh,
yeah,
but
I
yeah,
think that
so
that is I
so
think that Marvel, like the Marvel side of Disney is recognizing also possibly the oversaturation as well. That okay, we've got this, we had one of it because Loki's coming out at some point too, right?
Loki is coming out in a couple of I think it's also coming out in May,
Yeah.
I
So
think.
like if you think about
Um
these
but it's also the fact that I mean there's been no
June
Marvel
11th.
film
Sorry.
that's been out like
Yeah.
since Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man
Wow.
Far From Home was the last one.
Yeah. But yeah, Loki comes out on releases on June 11th.
Okay.
Um
So yeah. And that's what I'm thinking that like because there have been these TV properties that are coming out for Disney Plus that Disney's
mhm.
like, well, we can shift Marvel back a little bit more because fans have some element of content that's coming out.
Mhm.
It's just the fact that by shifting it, they ended up shifting like their entire release schedule for the rest of the year. Uh, so yeah.
Mhm.
Also of note, so Pixar's next film, Luca, will be going straight to Disney Plus. Um, and will be free. Like will be included with your subscription. Um,
Oh, so kind of like Soul.
yes, and this has been noted that like all of the Pixar stuff has been going straight to Disney Plus. I can't remember if Soul
Mhm.
actually released in theaters too.
No, Soul went directly to Disney Plus.
Okay. So
Mhm.
so basically the past 3 Pixar projects, Onward was the only one to actually make it to theaters and then it was a limited run because it was just when the
Oh,
pandemic
no,
started.
I'm wrong. Soul did have a small um thing
Okay.
at the
So
theaters.
I wonder
But
if
yeah, the last
Luca might be releasing in theaters then. But basically, all of the Pixar stuff is getting released for free, whereas the Disney stuff, the Marvel stuff, and I would assume if there's some kind of Star Wars film that comes out before, theaters reopen, probably Star Wars will all have that premiere tag on them.
so
Um,
according to Cinema Blend,
yeah,
Luca will show in theaters in the international markets where Disney Plus is not yet available.
interesting.
With those dates to be done.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas they will be going directly to all Disney Plus subscribers this June.
Interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's not even going to be in theaters in the U.S. then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And apparently this is the same model that the studio went did with Soul.
Yeah.
So Soul was overseas in theaters,
Okay.
um, but not here in the US.
Yeah.
And apparently Soul became so successful in China that it's now the second highest grossing Pixar movie of all time in the country,
It seems odd.
according to cinemablend.com.
Huh.
Mhm.
Like it just
I don't know.
seems like an odd choice to be super popular in China. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's very odd.
But but
I mean, it's cool, but yeah. Um okay. So we talked about that. And then just, talking about Animal Crossing a little bit. Um I mean, I'll
yeah.
talk about it a little bit because we all know
I
your
was gonna
feelings on
say,
Animal Crossing.
yeah, no, because we know
Uh
that Courtney doesn't like getting shamed by video games. So
I think it's great. And like Nintendo's doing like little event type stuff or whatever. So like if when you log in, um, like you'll get a 1 year anniversary cake
Oh,
that's like
cute.
furniture. Like you put it out and it's like this big Animal Crossing cake with like a one candle topper on it.
Aw.
Yeah,
Hey,
so that's neat.
first birthdays are important. They mean that you didn't kill it.
And well, and I think it goes to show that like who knows, maybe they'll do that for future years, and that they'll keep supporting this down the
Yeah.
line. That maybe they'll set aside an Animal Crossing team to continue doing
Mhm.
releases and stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, because 'cause they've done a lot like, even though I don't play, like, they've done a lot every month, like,
Hmm.
just to get everything, and so now, though, that it's been a full year, I'm gonna be interested to see what new stuff they bring. Cause like, Sean, I know you've gotten all of the fish.
I've gotten all of
Um,
the fish, all of the bugs, and all of the sea creatures. There's nothing
so
left.
my
I have nothing left to catch.
so, like, I'm wondering, like, are they going to be coming out with a couple more rare ones every season now? Or are they
Likely
going
not.
to Yeah. So I'm
Um,
interested to see, though, now um what new content they will be bringing.
I mean, it'll likely be special event type stuff, like
Yeah.
they're doing with the Mario event.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there'll be holiday. They may fine tune holidays. They may add stuff to holidays.
Mhm.
Um, I could see them revamping the Bunny Day stuff. That instead of having it run for a month, that it runs for maybe a week,
Yeah.
just so that you're not catching eggs for a month. And seeing that creepy zipper rabbit. Um, it's like some kind of guy in a bunny suit with a big zipper on the back, but it's like one of those like kind of slightly horrifying Easter bunny outfits.
Oh, just
Yeah,
slightly horrifying? Just
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 slightly,
slightly?
just a little bit,
Just
a little bit.
just slightly? Yeah, no, they're all terrifying, but yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about that. Folk of the Feywild.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about this for a number of reasons.
Mhm.
So,
I
one,
am too.
I always dig Feywild stuff. Fourth edition had a great Feywild book that introduced a whole bunch of new and interesting ways of doing things. Introduced uh, playing a pixie, which was cool. Had a lot of really comical character concepts based on like pixie barbarians. Um, that
Think Onward maybe took some of those, ideas?
maybe um, and if you're gonna run a Feywild campaign, like chances are you're gonna have it be on a little bit of the whimsical side. So um, But, yeah, so introducing basically fairy PCs. Um, they're Feywild hobgoblins. So like they're supposed to be different than regular hobgoblins. Um, there's uh owl folk
There's rabbit I was
and
gonna say there's
rabbit
rabbit
folk.
folk and owl folk,
Yep.
because I remember this specifically because we were having the conversation of now you can pretty much have the most of the Winnie the Pooh
Yes. Yes.
everything.
Uh
Um,
so one thing that I find interesting with fairies and owl folk, Wizards has basically kind of said, yeah, we've got enough stuff out there now. I guess flying's not really that big of an issue to give to players at level 1 because you compare it with the Aarakocra option for players, and like they were like, you get flying, you get like nothing else because that's such a huge benefit, and like Aarakocra are kind of underwhelming in that regard.
yeah.
And then Owlfolk, they're like, yeah, we'll just give you a whole bunch of other stuff. Fairies, we'll give you a whole bunch of other stuff.
Mhm.
And you could just go ham. Uh, And I think that's a wise move on their part. I think a lot of people really overvalue the ability to fly. Um, because for
I
one
mean,
thing,
especially for I mean, not necessarily for an owl folk, but especially for a fairy folk where you are small.
So that's
Like,
one of the things that I have a bit of a thing of contention with is
but I think
it
it's interesting
seems
because your
like
walking speed is still 30 feet.
it seems like they made them small because they don't want to tackle the issue of making somebody tiny, which 4th
Mhm.
edition did it pretty well, which was you were tiny. Like if you played a fairy character, you were a foot tall.
Yeah.
Um, like you were the size you were smaller than a cat. Um,
Mhm.
which like is basically the appeal of playing a pixie character. Playing this little tiny character kind of a thing. But then you have to rectify equipment, right? 4th edition did this by giving fairy characters like a trait that allowed them to shrink items. That basically allowed them to Ant-Man items. And
Okay.
they just used Ant-Man rules where you're super tiny, but effectively you hit with the force of a medium-sized creature. And when you shrink an item down, it just follows that same it follows the same
Yeah.
rules. Like it just deals the same amount of it like none of its trait change except for um
It's
its
physical
size.
size. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're able to use it normally, and they just track it like it has the same weight, so that essentially like you just shrink down all of your equipment, and you don't have to modify any encumbrance rules, uh,
Yeah.
because you just use the same weights and everything. Um,
Mhm.
so essentially, it's just you make everything ultra dense when you shrink it down, uh, and you can like shrink it back as whatever. Um,
Yeah.
And that was the way they got around things. Uh, so this instead, what they are is you're a small size creature, which means they don't have to worry about any of the rules. Um, but they give you an ability where you can fit through any space that is 1 inch or bigger.
Yeah, you can squeeze through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide. It is Fey passage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, which basically means that you can just shrink down to that size.
Yeah,
Is one interpretation of it. Which means like you could have done something. Wizards is basically they refuse to deal with the large size, tiny size thing with player characters, which is why like powerful build is a thing, which is we're going to give you some of the benefits of being large size without giving you the increased space for being large size. Um,
yeah.
or giving you additional reach or something. Um, and this is the first time they've had to like think about design on the other side.
Yeah, something that I think that is great, and I love this table, is the Fey characteristics table of a
Mm,
D8. And my favorite one around it is when you roll a 7, you smell like fresh brownies. Or you can just choose, that characteristic.
yeah.
But I love that. I love that idea of
That
you smell like
I
fresh brownies.
wonder if that's like a reference to there is a type of fairy called a brownie. Um, and they're basically like house hobbits, right? That they are house spirits. They're like little
Yep.
hobbits. Um, and they are good natured. And if treated well, like they will fix your shoes and
Hmm.
clean up any stuff or whatever. And it's as long as like you leave out, it's like a little bowl of cream and stuff like that or whatever, as an offering.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but they like
But
take
no,
care of things around the house. Because they live.
I just
It's
think
the
that
idea is they live there. I think there's also there's a bunch of movies that have this concept too. I think there's a Miyazaki film like it. Uh,
it's some sort of sprites that live in the home with you,
yeah,
and you do nice things for them and they do nice things for you, and
yeah.
yeah.
There's some variants
I
that are not brownies where like if you don't treat them well, like they break stuff or whatever. But those aren't what we're.
Yeah, but I very much love the idea of a fairy creature and you just smell like fresh brownies.
Mm,
Like, I think of it for the lols. Um like you meet somebody new and they like look around and they're like, "Who's making brownies?" "Oh, that's just me."
yeah. Um, I really like the sort of the Feywild hobgoblin type stuff because they
Mhm.
add interesting flair. And I always had a problem with the sort of Volo's I think it's Volo's hobgoblin stuff. Or it might be Monster Manual Hobgoblin or something. But it's
Mhm.
basically like to like they have an ability where it's save face. And again, it's introducing like a cultural thing, like a very cultural thing into
Yeah.
this species has this. Like and every member of this species has this. And it's because every member of this species is part of a homogenous culture. And it's like, yeah. And the idea
Mm,
being that like their culture is based on like bullying and very like regimented and because everything is that way, um if you were to like make a mistake, like you can like re-roll stuff or whatever so that you don't look bad in front of your peers. And it's like that's like as a species trait, like come on.
yeah, that's
I mean, I have a similar issue with kobolds getting uh like acting pathetic as a species trait, which is a thing that they get. Um
So
like
wait,
you
did they
can
all just play Get Help?
um no, it's more of you grovel and beg and cower in front of your enemies in order to like make them not attack you.
Boo.
And it's like that and like it's every member of that species gets it. And it's like that's
No, I don't like that. That doesn't make me
I'm not
feel
a fan
good.
of that. Um
No.
I'm also not a fan of it because like gully dwarves get it in Dragonlance, and gully dwarves are a whole amalgamation of problematic tropes. Um
I do think that I do like the Fey gift for hobgoblins. Um,
yes.
where
And
you can
it
use
kind of
help
ties
action
it
as
ties a
a
lot
bonus action.
into sort of the design um thoughts that I have regarding elves in Jemmora, where it's based on heritage from like a Fey court and like sort of blessings that you get from a court of Fey. Um,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so it's like you might not consider yourself to have any connection to that house, but it's magic that is passed down through your family.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think that it's great because it also reminds you, because I know that you've said this, Sean, like when you don't have something to do, you don't think that, oh, I can take the help action, like to actually help out others. um,
Yeah, help and dodge. As a reminder,
yeah,
folks, you can if you don't know what to do, just dodge or
yeah.
help. Uh,
And so I
those
like
are
that
two
it's
great
it's giving
options.
you, like, it's making you think about that action more, and you can use that as a bonus action.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Uh,
awesome.
and actually, speaking of which, we were talking about Dimension 20 before we went live. Help
Mhm.
action gets used all the time. They use help action all the time on that show. Um, so that's a case where if you really want to ingrain that into your mind of this is a thing I can do, um, definitely give that a look see.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, lots of help, lots of bardic inspiration thrown around a lot in that show. Um,
Yeah. I will say, like, I was very, very happy uh seeing owl folk and rabbit folk. Like,
yeah, I
I
mean,
want
Rabbit Folk makes sense. You know, with their stuff, I didn't find that particularly exciting. Um, Owl Folk though, cool, cool beans. Also that it gives an option for people that want to play Bird Folk. Uh, that's not Aarakocra.
Yeah.
Since, as we've said, Aarakocra kind of bland, that they really don't get anything because Wizards with kind of overvalued flight.
Yeah. I just
Um,
want to be a little bunny.
sure, go for it.
And I
Um,
want to be a small little bunny and play up the Alice trope a lot.
Yeah. Or you could be Peter Rabbit.
Oh, have you seen? Yeah, yeah.
Like
Mhm.
like
Published work's not that bad. Yeah.
yeah. Uh like the cute version of Peter Rabbit, not, any of the
Yes, the published versions of
yeah,
Peter Rabbit. Let's call it that. Yes,
yeah,
because we all know
not
the
the movie.
originals. The originals were kind of scary.
Or
But
you could play Watership Down. No. No one should ever do that. Uh,
actually, I'd also love the idea of playing like those bunnies that have like the super long ears, and they're
yeah,
like gigantic. Like I want to play one of those too, and just be like just take my time with everything.
yeah.
You know.
What
Yeah.
so one thing that folks are a little down about is so we now have for folks of a certain persuasion, we have cat folk, we have lizard folk, we have turtle folk, we have uh generic bird folk, we have
Hmm.
owl folk. Um I'm trying to think of what else we've got.
Isn't there an okay? I know that I've seen minis
Technically, we have
for
hyena folk
elephant
if you
folk.
can figure out gnolls. Yeah, we have loxodon, which are basically elephant folk. We've got
Hmm.
minotaur, who are you can use them as ox folk, cow folk, and everything.
Hmm.
And we don't have dog folk.
Darn it, we can't do BoJack Horseman yet.
Um, we also don't have horse folk either, but that's okay.
In that situation, honestly, I mean, you could do we have stats for playing as a centaur?
Oh yeah, yeah. Centaur have
Okay,
been
like
have been published in a couple different. Um, but that's not quite
I
the
kn-
same thing.
I know, I know.
Um, so yeah. So you could probably get pretty close to playing Winnie the Pooh. Uh, not quite yet with Zootopia, we'll say.
Yeah, it would be so easy to make Kanga and Roo though.
I
Like
mean, I suppose technically you could
like
have like if you count lycanthropes and you just use like you take out the silver like the damage resistance and
yeah.
stuff and you just go on what's with like the hybrid form like you could have bear folk and wolf folk and tiger folk and boar folk and rat folk.
But we need something for the ruse.
Do you?
I mean, if you want to have the whole Winnie the Pooh
They
everyone,
don't show
yeah.
up in every episode. You just need the core people. You just need the core folks.
They're my favorite, so,
Okay, Courtney. Okay. Um.
Also,
So yeah.
kangaroos are actually like really strong and kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm
I mean, of course,
I'm
the other option is to play an awakened animal, which is always a good time. Saying that as one of my favorite NPCs ever.
yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so, which I'm also in the process of making stats for the Leaf Dancer NPCs for the new Jemmora book. So
Nice.
yeah, Sir Munz as a level 13 rogue is kind of fun.
Mhm.
With passive insight, investigate, and perception scores of like no less than 21
Mhm.
and potentially as high as 27. So yeah, this just tiny little dog who just notices everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
Just smells everything. Just knows
Yeah, we'll
everything.
we'll, we'll talk about it after the episode. Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, that is currently up. Those options are available on D&D Beyond if you use D&D Beyond to make characters. So those are available there. Um, so not really sure what this would be attached to. So when we got the Gothic lineages, um, I mean, we didn't get that very long ago, and then they announced like 2 weeks later that the Ravenloft book
Yeah.
was coming out, and those are going to be in there. So I don't know if there's going to be a Feywild book, like if there's going to be a Feywild campaign setting or some kind of
Oh, that
adventure.
would be great.
I mean, for lineages like that, it would be in a campaign book. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
in an adventure, because typically um, you don't put player options like that in an adventure book. You put it in a campaign
Yeah,
guide or something.
yeah, because it's interesting though, because I do keep seeing ads for Candlekeep Mysteries. Um,
Well, that's because that just came out
no,
last
no,
week.
and they all have and they have fairies on them, or pixies, or whatever you want to call them.
That is
Um,
because there is an adventure that partially takes place in the Feywild, I think.
yeah, that was just my only thought, but I'm like, but these specific type of things doesn't make sense. I don't know. I'm waiting for my copy to get shipped down for me. Joe picked him up, and he's gonna send it down to me eventually. So,
Yeah,
but um, yeah, because we got the fancy covers. Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
So
I, I would love to do like to have. I'd love to have a campaign in the Feywild. That would be so awesome. Like,
potentially. So the issue is because it's not Faroon,
hmm
and technically it's like kind of a newer, uh, like they kind of alluded to it in past editions, but like they really didn't do anything with it until fourth edition.
hmm
Um, there's not a whole lot of material. So it would ultimately be up to the DM to like have to craft a whole, like essentially it would be homebrewing a plane that has multiple aspects to it on top of deciding, because it's not the prime material. So uh, that gets tricky with a lot of things. Like if you decide that all your people are native to the
yeah.
Feywild, um, and
I
then if they're
imagine
all
it would be like making New
Fey,
Wonderland, like making
a little
Wonderland
bit,
over again, making Oz over again, making
yeah.
insert fiction, insert Narnia or
It
other
also kind of
fictional
changes the nature
realm here.
of how good some spells are. Um, so, for example, things like protection from good and evil become really good, or magic
Yeah,
circle, or um, or conversely, things like charm person and hold person are worthless.
yeah,
If everything you encounter is fey, and there are no
yeah.
humanoids, so there's that. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. It gets weird in the Feywild. Um, but yeah,
It's
and it's
all
something
just
that
weird.
we're working on for Jemmora, both
Hmm.
in terms of the new book and in terms of the current campaign. Courtney,
hmm Yep. Yep.
better be prepared.
Courtney is. May is
For those
not.
that haven't watched any of the backlog of episodes that we have, Courtney's character has some connection to the Feywild? Question mark. So
Mm, she don't know.
nope.
She's just getting a handle on like the small bit of magic that she has
Yeah.
now.
So,
She has no
um,
real clue what's going on.
and again, one of the things that we're trying to decide as a cast is when to return to streaming. It
Yeah.
may not be until a campaign two. Like we may not. It really all depends on COVID and
Yeah.
when studios are
If and
available,
when and how we can get back into the
um
studio and
and when would be a good time to reintroduce the camp. Is the issue is we started sort of a mid-campaign thing. Um, and unfortunately, I feel like you can only get away with that once.
Yeah.
Um, so then trying to reintroduce something like after a break, but we've been playing offline, even if it's for only for a couple of sessions. Now it's like stuff's happened, and so we may not come back until campaign 2, whenever that is. Um, or we may come back at a next like a big arc kind of a thing
Yeah.
and reintroduce everybody and kind of s- treat it as if it were a brand new show. Um,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So that's an update for fans of Tales of Jemmora. Um, might as well throw it in there. For fans of Berkshire Bites, no idea when that's going to come back. I would love for it
Yeah.
to come back at some point, but likely it would have to be post pandemic, like
Yeah.
when COVID is actually gone and places are fully reopened and everything. Um, is
You
likely
mean places are safely fully reopened?
places are
Like,
safely
let's
fully reopened. Like mask wearing is now limited to, cold and flu season,
or if
if
you
you're
have
sick, kind of a
allergies,
thing.
things like
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it probably might not be back for a while. We haven't forgotten about it. Megan and I still talk about it occasionally and just say, "Oh, it'd be nice to do this," but yeah. Um,
Mm.
at this point, it
Yeah.
also would require a decision on our part as to whether to include the baby or get a sitter in order to go
Or get a
places,
sitter.
or get a sitter. Uh, again, it depends on schedules.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for
But
for the audio listeners, it was Courtney was waving her hand.
I was waving my hand. Hey y'all, I can babysit.
So
So long as I can.
yeah. Um, so yeah, that's just an update. I would rather do it here than you know put out like a little 10-second thing on each of those
Yeah.
podcast channels and get everybody excited, and then be like, oh. So
Yeah.
I know that happens when I see that occasionally happen on other podcasts that I follow, where it's like, oh, they finally updated, and it's like, oh, it's just to say that they're not
Yeah.
coming back for a while. Yeah. So
Yeah. But
smite.
yeah.
So yeah.
About right.
Uh,
About right.
why don't we get into quest log before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah.
So quest log is where we talk about what sort of stuff we've had on our geeky to-do list, what sort of stuff we're going to put on our geeky to-do list, and what we got accomplished. Um, Courtney,
Yeah.
should do we want to just skip you for this week?
I did do one thing that I had talked about a
Okay.
couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Um, and I remembered that I did it. So I had talked a couple weeks ago about the Tentacle Kitty Kickstarter 2.0 that is out on Kickstarter right now. I did my backing. I had been setting aside money for it and everything. So I will be getting the Galaxy Kitty, the 16 mystery littles that are as big as this little ninja dude in my hand, and the Worm Kickstarter exclusive, which is also a little. So I'm about to be overrun with kitties this summer, um, but that is about the only thing I've been able to do besides survive.
Okay.
And
Um,
unfortunately, I'm still trying to get used to this new schedule. So
yeah, that'll
yep, yep,
happen.
yep, before I get to do anything.
Yeah, on top of daylight savings time. Let's not discount that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
What
so
about you, Sean? Though.
I did manage to color a comic this week. I started working on another one, so trying to get again multiple comics done in a week so that I finish ahead of schedule. What a novel
Hmm.
concept. Um, I didn't create an item icon. However, I have been doing work on Tales of Jemmora, writing realm articles, writing other articles. Just adding stuff here and there, adding more spells and things like that. Um, So up on Patreon, uh, $2 patrons
I was gonna
are
say I
able
did
to,
see there was a post.
yes, the Bronari Wastes. So that was something that wasn't up there previously. So that is all new. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've also been working on some spells, and just thinking about how. So the idea for Jemmora in this new sort of idealized '80s world um, is that because magic exists, you can use magic, you can use transmutation magic to modify materials. So if you can modify existing materials, do you really need to? And you can get vehicles by binding elementals to them. Do you need oil? And you don't really. Like, you don't need petroleum. So then it
Not
becomes a
in the
case
mass. I'd
of,
say not in the massive amounts that we have, but
well, so then it becomes a case of, what does an '80s world look like with no gasoline and no plastic? Uh, and the answer is, you know, if you have spells that allow you to transmutation magic, that like we have alter self, we've got polymorph, we have all this stuff to like transform living things into other living things. Um, but outside of being a transmuter wizard, there isn't a thing to just like alter the properties of a material while um maintaining like that material itself, right? Like,
hmm
so this idea is, I basically made a spell where you can modify the existing properties of a specific material. So, if it's an item that's made of multiple materials, you only apply it to one material in that item, right? So overall, like for a suit of armor, like it doesn't really affect the suit of armor and the protection it gives you. But if somebody were to try and like destroy the armor itself, like as an object, it would affect its properties. Granted, it has a long casting time, so this is used for more industrial purposes, right? So I'm thinking about
yeah,
like background magic type stuff. Um,
yeah.
so
Background
imagine,
magic, man. You know.
things that you can affect, and here I'll bring it up, because this is a cool spell. Sorry, I opened my start menu and
Yeah,
my
it's. I
computer
hadn't gotten a
decided
full
to
chance.
not be happy.
I hadn't gotten a chance to fully look through the Bernari wastes in the spotlight. Um,
All right, so this spell is called
because life.
Modify Material. It's got a casting time of 1 minute, can be cast as a ritual. Uh, the duration is concentration up to 1 hour, right? So you also have to concentrate on it. Has a range of touch. Again, the idea is you're not doing this during combat, um,
Yeah.
but like to have the idea of maybe you could do this as part of like an espionage or reconnaissance mission too. Um, so you can alter one of the following properties of a single material that is no greater than a 5-foot cube. Okay. Uh, so it's one of the following properties. Conductivity. You can make the material a good or poor conductor of electricity or anywhere in between. Um, so this means that like you could take a suit of armor and you could make it non-conductive, right?
Wow.
Or you could take the metal in a suit of armor and make it non-conductive. You
Yeah.
could take, you could take gold and you could render it inert. Like alternatively, you could take a material, like you could take like a ceramic material that is normally an insulator and make it conductive for some purpose. Um, there are no specific mechanics attached to that. Um, but for example, shocking grasp does say, if it's a conductive material that you get advantage. But otherwise, it's just for sort of flavor and for, again, industrial purposes. Color, you're
Yeah.
able to change materials color as if it were dyed or painted. So basically, if you don't want to go through the whole task of like dyeing or painting something, which might be a very long, taxing process, you can do this spell. Um, it also means that you won't mess up, right? Because that can happen if you're dying or painting something. Um,
That
Again,
is,
but
yeah.
it only changes it to one color, and it changes the entirety of that material. Um,
Yeah.
I might say if you were a DM and you wanted to, let them make a skill check or like make a painting supplies check to make something a little more complicated, you could do that. Durability. So this one actually has mechanics attached to it. Increasing or decreasing the material's maximum hit points by half. So you're just making the item more durable. This
Wow,
also
by
means that
half.
like it might it's a little sturdier and it's stronger. Um, Hardness, increasing or decreasing the material's damage threshold by 5. So again, making something more resistant to um shock, right? Like
So
kinetic
less
shock.
so less broken baseball bats,
Less broken baseball bats, very good for
you know.
glass, say. Like increasing
Mhm.
durability and hardness of glass now suddenly makes it from uh like if you have like a glass cup, I mean that glass cup might now have the durability and hardness of like a plastic water bottle. Like you might be able
Yeah.
to drop it and it just won't shatter into a million pieces.
Mhm.
Um Flexibility. You are able to change the material's elasticity and plasticity. Um this is getting into a little more of like chemical terms. Um but basically this means so elasticity is if you are able to stretch and pull an object and it returns to its original shape. Plasticity is if you are able to, stretch, pull, bend an object, and it doesn't spring back to its original shape. It retains its new shape, but it doesn't break. Right?
I could see that being very, very useful and having a lot of different architectural uh, implementations,
Yeah. Right. So
like
you think
really
about
funky biz buildings.
uh like aluminum foil, right? It like so plasticity is you can crumple it up,
Yeah.
right? And it retains that shape, but you haven't broken like it doesn't tear apart when you do that necessarily. Sometimes it does because
Until
it's
you
cheap.
until you try and tear it apart
Like you
and
can tear it
straighten
apart
it
and
back out.
that's one thing. But like you can scrunch it up and it will retain that shape. And again, this is very very base level because I'm not a chemist or an engineer, right? Nobility. You are able to make the material more or less resistant to corrosion and oxidation. So this is an easy way to make steel stainless steel, right? You just like
Yeah.
can't corrode. Cool. Now suddenly you don't have to like you worry so much less about maintenance for like bridges and stuff
I was
because
gonna
they're
say,
not
yeah, I'm
corroding.
thinking like infrastructure. You get casters up there
Yeah.
and just yeah.
Uh, Now here's a big one. Translucency. You are able to make the material opaque, transparent, or anywhere in between. This one I might change to make it one step. So that it requires multiple castings. So that like people aren't just going around, like touching a wall and now suddenly like it's a window. Um, just because that has all sorts of complications and implications uh, of nefarious activity. Um, but again, this is a
Half the things
way.
that just popped into my head.
This is a way. So like uh, again, um, worried about like glass containers. Well,
Mhm.
now you could take an aluminum cup, like a can, right? And make that transparent,
That would be
or
really
or
great.
rather translucent. So like it's not invisible; it's you can see through
Yeah,
it. But like
yeah.
so much like you can see through glass, but you can still see the glass's shape. This would be that you can still see like the aluminum cup's shape, but you can see through it.
Oh, so you can see exactly how much paint is left in your paint can without having to hold it up and kind of guess how heavy it is. If
You could if they didn't put labeling on the outside.
Yeah, that's why you wouldn't have labeling in Jemmora,
Um, I mean, you
or it
still
would
might
just be
though,
on the top.
because remember, it is supposed to be like an '80s campaign, and we're all about dem brands. Whoa, yeah,
I'm sure that they would have figured out a way to do both, let's say. Like make the labels a little smaller or something.
I mean, it's more like you would make the top, like you would make the lid translucent.
Yeah.
Um, Now, if you maintain concentration on the spell for its full duration, the effect is permanent.
That was gonna be my next question. I was like, "Wait a
Um,
second, but
I
didn't you
am
say this
also
is an
going to
hour?"
add language in there to make it clear that uh so normally when that happens is it could still be dispelled later. Is to say like you have uh like permanently altered the material such that this is now the natural state of that material. So that way
Okay.
it's not just like somebody, cast dispel magic and now suddenly uh
And now suddenly bridges are collapsing
kind
and,
of, or
you know,
something like that. You can upcast the spell to alter additional properties with the same casting.
cool.
So that's an example. There's another one like recharge. It's just you cast it, uh, like it takes an hour, and you recharge batteries. It's meant to be, and there are specific kinds of batteries that it can recharge. So, um, like in Jemmora, like because there's no gasoline, what you do is you have like these elemental batteries. Essentially, it basically like all cars are electric, right? Sort of electric. Um, so what you do is you're swapping out fuel cells. Um,
Yeah.
you can't recharge those except with a higher level casting of the spell. At its base level, you are essentially recharging like AA batteries, which are used for like smaller items like flashlights, lighters, uh, cameras.
Game controllers.
Um, well, so remember,
Right. That's right.
yeah,
Nope, there wouldn't be because if there were any, they'd be wired.
portable
Yep.
gaming devices probably not a huge thing in
Yep.
Jamora.
Yep, that's
It
right.
really depends. I know the Game Boy I think came out in like '89, so maybe there might be something. Um, but essentially, yeah, like you could do that. Battery powered lanterns, things. A lot
Mhm.
of camping gear, really.
I was gonna say, think about any real camping gear, radios,
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah, radios, flashlights.
so it's really an idea to give you um the ability to recharge that stuff out in the wilderness. Note that cannot be cast as a ritual, so that you cannot get free energy. Is that you always have to give something up when recharging. Um, but yeah, so those are
But hey,
examples of things that I've been
Your
working on.
Walkman never runs out of juice, you know? Tapes, my man. Tapes.
Yep. So yeah, so that I mean that's what I've been working on. And the goal is to keep working on that stuff
Fun, fun.
for next time.
I look forward to eventually reading and
I'm
getting to play in this.
so
I'm very excited to be able to play.
I'm so excited to run a game in the new version of the setting. Um,
Mm.
but also, so if you follow 8-Bit Adventures on social media or are a patron, um, and so I don't want to take unsolicited ideas because that gets into weird legal stuff. But as far as what concepts you would like to you like to see in campaign guides, uh, would be super helpful, right? Um, so I mean, like what sort of player options, uh, like what sort of like what sort of stuff to be included in regions, right? Because I have a good idea of things that I want to include, like from a cultural perspective, but it's at a very like macroscopic level.
Yeah.
Um, And so it's a thing to just to get a feel for like what do people look for in a campaign guide. So this is a little bit of like market research kind of a thing. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah. I also wrote up an article on the calendar and how the calendar works in Jemmora. I know we talked about there during the AMA. So
Nice.
there's that.
It
Just
is it
and
is
how
nice to be able to have
it's
a
a
calendar.
seasonal calendar, but each season is 3 months. But they don't necessarily acknowledge the months. So you have oh, what is it? 84-day seasons. So you might have like this is the 80th day of spring in the year 1984. Um except it would be the year 2984. Um and it's BC and AC. Uh which stands for before common and after common, which is when the common language was developed. So it's been
Oh.
almost about 3,000 years since the common language was developed. Um,
Hmm.
about around the time when the elves kind of tore their way into the world. So, yeah. So I've rambled on a bit long about that. Um,
I always love hearing about Jemmora, so you have
yeah,
no complaints from me.
yeah. Um, so that is going to wrap things up for this week. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. If you want to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, be sure to check out 8-bitadventures.com. Over there, you can find podcasts, artwork, comics, streams, videos, VODs, and more. Um, so go check that out. If you want to help support that content, please consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/8bitadventures or subscribing right here on Twitch. Do not forget that Amazon Prime members get one free, I think they still call it Twitch Prime, subscription a month. They may have changed the name on it. Um, but you still get
I
one
have
free subscription a month. Please consider throwing that free subscription our way because every little bit helps.
mhm.
Um, and finally, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. I think I actually have a thing now. Yes. You can check out his
Yay!
work at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we are done for this episode. So, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming and enjoy your pie cake.
Bye, everybody.